Fluency? What's that? Reading fluently means reading smoothly, accurately, at a good rate, with expression and understanding what I read. You might be asking yourself, why is reading fluently important? Practicing fluency as you read helps you make meaning, so you will have stronger comprehension, meaning you're going to really understand what you read and be able to talk about it. Fluent readers can puzzle through words and think about what they are reading at the same time. That might seem like an easy skill, but it takes some work. So pay extra close attention to the tips that you learned today to help you become a fluent reader. The key parts to reading with fluency are accuracy, phrasing, punctuation, rate, and expression. We're going to talk about each of these, and I'm also going to be showing you how each of these can be applied to your reading. Let's talk about accuracy. What does it mean and what does it look like? So, accuracy means when you read the words correctly. Don't confuse this. You don't have to read all the words correctly the first time. That's not exactly what accuracy means. Accuracy can also be when you go back and fix your mistakes and when you use strategies to puzzle through words that you aren't sure. Once you get all the words and you've worked through them, whether it was using strategies or going back and fixing mistakes, it's going back and then reading the words correctly. So it doesn't have to be perfect the whole time, but it means that you go back and reread once you figure everything out. Okay, today I'm going to be using the story of the ant and the grasshopper. You're going to see me practice accuracy here. Please notice that I'm not reading it perfect the first time. When I make mistakes, when I have to take my time to figure out a word and use strategies, I go back and I read it correctly once I've done that work. When you do that, it shows strong accuracy. So let's take a look. I'm going to get my pointer on the screen here so you can really see me as I'm working through the words. It was summer, hot and sunny. And instead of working and, not sure about this word, preparing, I see ring, preparing, working and preparing for winter. Grasshopper was dancing, singing, and playing in the field. Grasshopper saw, I'm going to look for parts I know. Well, this is ing, I'm going to cover it up, and I see work. So now I'm going to look at this beginning part. Haired working. Haired working doesn't make sense. Hard working. Grasshopper saw a hard-working ant passing by him, carrying corn for the hard winter that was to come one day. Grasshopper invited, no, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, silent E here makes the I say the same. Invited. Grasshopper invited ant to join him and share his fun. Okay, that first read, most of my work was making sure that I knew the words and that I had to work through some. So I wasn't really thinking about what I was reading and whether or not it made sense. So now that I've done that work, it's my job as a reader to go back to the beginning and read it smoothly now that I've done all the work to figure out the words. Here we go. It was summer, hot and sunny, and instead of working and preparing for winter, Grasshopper was dancing, singing, and playing in the field. Grasshopper saw a hard-working ant passing by him, carrying corn for the hard winter that was to come one day. Grasshopper invited ant to join him and share his fun. You're going to notice that sounded a lot smoother. I wasn't pausing a lot because I had figured out all of the words, and it gave me time to think about what was happening. So it looks like it's summertime It's really nice out. Grasshoppers dancing and singing and playing in the field. And Ant is doing some hard work and he's trying to prepare for the winter. He's using this time to prepare by carrying corn. And Grasshopper seems to be doing the opposite and he wants Ant to join in with him. Another key part of accuracy is called phrasing, and that means when you read words and phrases of 3 to 4 words at a time. And I put a little note here that it's no robot reading. Robot reading sounds like this. There's pauses in between each word and it sounds very word by word, very choppy. We want our reading to sound smoothly. So you want to try to group together 3 to 4 words, and I'm going to show you that a part of phrasing is called scooping, and it's when you scoop 3 to 4 words together at a time, and you're going to notice it makes your reading sound smoother. Here's an example of phrasing. You're going to notice I'm using the exact same passage that I did for accuracy, but this time I'll be scooping words together to show you how it makes your reading sound smoother and not like a robot. Robot reading sounds like this. It was summer, hot and sunny, and instead of working and preparing for winter, I'm going to stop there because when we read like that, it's very boring. It's hard for us to make sense of what we're reading because there's so many pauses. Let's see how making your reading sound smoother using scooping helps you think about what you've read. It was summer, hot and sunny, and instead of working and preparing for winter, Grasshopper was dancing, singing, and playing in the field. Grasshopper saw a hard-working ant passing him by, carrying corn for the hard winter that was to come one day. Grasshopper invited Ant to join him and share his fun. You can see that was much smoother than before and easier to understand. I hope you'll try scooping in your own reading and see how it makes your reading sound smoother and more interesting. Let's talk about punctuation. Your eyes will sometimes need to look ahead to punctuation to see how you should read. Pause at periods and commas. So after every period, after every comma, you should be taking a brief pause. This will help so that your words do not get mixed together, as that can sometimes change the meaning and make your reading confusing. So make sure whenever you see a period or a comma, you're pausing. The next one is an exclamation point. So read with excitement when you see an exclamation point. It doesn't always mean shouting, it just means make your voice sound excited. Next, we have a question mark. When you're going to be reading a question, raise your voice at the end when you see a question mark. For example, if you have the question, what are we having for dinner? You want to try to change your voice on the last word. What are we having for dinner? The next one are quotation marks, and quotation marks are used when characters are talking. So you want to think about how the character is feeling and read like the character when you see quotation marks. Here's an example of how to read by paying close attention to punctuation. You're going to notice we have quotation marks, so I'm going to need to read like the character. We have commas, so I'm going to need to take a pause there. Same for periods. If I see a period, I need to take a quick pause. I also see a question mark, meaning I need to raise my voice, and an exclamation point, so I need to sound excited. Watch me use those clues to read this successfully. Ready? Unfortunately, I do not have time for this, Ant answered. I must work hard so that winter won't find me without shelter and food. Stop worrying so much. There is still plenty of time to prepare for winter, right? Let's sing and dance together. Let's laugh and enjoy life." But Ant was very wise and wouldn't pay attention to Grasshopper's words. Now let's talk about rate. When we think of rate, it means time. You don't want to read too fast or too slow. Think of Goldilocks. You want to be somewhere in the middle where it's just right. Another way to help you read with rate is to read the way you talk. Think about the way that you talk to your friends, that you talk to your family. It's usually not too fast and not too slow, and we want to do the same thing when we're reading. Here's an example for rate. We're going to keep reading in our Ant and Grasshopper story. And if you remember, Ant is working hard to prepare for the winter, but Grasshopper thinks it's a nice day and they should laugh and play and not work too hard, that they have plenty of time. Our story will continue. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you read too slow, too fast, and just right. Here's an example of too slow, and you're going to see that when it's too slow, it's hard to understand the story. Watch. Ant continued to work hard and store food for the long winter that was to come. You'll notice that that was very slow and very hard to stay focused on. But you'll also see sometimes readers think that if someone is reading very fast, it means they're a strong reader. And that's actually not true. Sometimes when we read too fast, we mix the words together and we're so focused on how fast we're going that we're also not paying attention to the story, and it also might not make sense because it usually means that you're reading right through punctuation and not taking the time to pause and think. So watch how reading too fast can also be a problem. Here we go. Ant continued to work hard and store food for the long winter that was to come. The winter came sooner than expected, and the grasshopper found himself without a home and without food. I should have followed Ant's example in the summer. The grasshopper thought sadly, I would have been so happy now. I just read that super fast. It was hard to understand. I was making mistakes because I was going so fast, and I have no idea what I read. So finding a good pace of in the middle, not too slow, not too fast, really helps you to think about the story. And it kind of also goes along with phrasing or scooping, which I showed you earlier is when you group the words together. So let me show you what happens when you take your time, but you're also not racing through your reading. Ant continued to work hard and store food for the long winter that was to come. The winter came sooner than expected, and the grasshopper found himself without home and without food. I should have followed Ant's example in the summer, the grasshopper thought sadly. I would have been so happy now. You can see the difference. The third time that I read, I could understand what I was reading and I understood what was happening in the story. So I started to think about how Ant continued to work hard and store food, and the winter came fast, sooner than they thought it would, and Grasshopper started to regret that he did not work as hard as Ant because he would have been happier later if he had also been responsible. The last key part of fluency that we're going to talk about today is expression. And expression is really fun because it's a way to take your reading from boring to interesting. And really all you have to do is, if you're reading a story with fiction, just think about how the characters are feeling. If they're feeling mad, you need to read it as though you're mad. If they're excited, read it excited. If they're feeling nervous about something, then try to read it that way. When you start to think about how the characters feel so that you can read like them, it makes you start to also think in your brain a little more about the characters, and it really helps you to understand the story. So although expression can be fun, it's actually really important because it helps us learn more about our characters. So with expression, you want to read with feeling and read the way the character would say it. Okay, for our example of expression, you're going to notice that I'm reading the exact same passage as before, but this time I've really paid attention to Ant in the story, and I've also really paid attention to Grasshopper. I'm thinking about what's happening in the story, and I'm realizing how kind of upset he is and disappointed he is in himself towards the end of the story, and you're going to notice that I sound that way. Here we go. Ant continued to work hard and store food for the long winter that was to come. The winter came sooner than expected, and the grasshopper found himself without home and without food. I should have followed Ant's example in the summer, the grasshopper thought sadly. I would have been so happy now. You'll notice that when I changed my voice, I read with more expression, you started to really understand the character of Grasshopper, because reading with expression makes us think of characters' feelings and how they might change throughout a story. Okay, second graders, here's where I would like you to press pause on the video so you can try reading about the ant and the grasshopper. I'll have some questions after so you can check and see if you understood. Try to remember to work on accuracy, phrasing, punctuation, rate, and expression. After you're done reading, press play. It's time for a comprehension check. Ready? Did Grasshopper change throughout the story? Yes, Grasshopper just wanted to sing, dance, and relax in the beginning of the story. At the end, he felt sad that he wasn't prepared for winter and wished he listened to Ant. What character traits did you find in the story? Remember, character traits are words that describe how you are on the inside. Ant showed he is responsible by gathering corn and getting ready for winter, even though it was nice out. Grasshopper showed he was irresponsible or lazy when he decided to play instead of getting ready for winter. Second graders, if you came up with some different words to describe these characters, that's okay, as long as you can give a detail to prove it. Lastly, I know we also had a lesson on this a couple weeks ago. What lesson did Grasshopper learn in this story? What did he learn from Ant? Grasshopper learned that it is better to be prepared than not at all. He also learned that sometimes it's important to work first and play later. And last, you could also say he learned hard work pays off. If you answered something like one of those answers about Grasshopper learning that he should get his work done first before playing, then you got the lesson of the story. I hope you noticed that when we use fluency and we try to be a fluent reader, it helps us to understand our stories and answer questions about a comprehension check. Okay, second grade readers, time to try this on your own. Don't worry, you can do it. You can try this with a book at home, Raz Kids, or an Epic account. And if you need an Epic account set up, please contact your reading specialist. We've sent lots of emails to parents, so if you still need one, let us know. Oh, and don't forget to click the subscribe button so you never miss a video from the Brought Reading channel. Good luck, fluent readers!